As someone who designs, it's hard to find that one property where you say, wow, there's not a single thing I would change about this house. It almost never happens. So that's why I'm excited to talk about this house. I'm so glad they went with a fixed pane of glass covering that entire window, because to me this view is a picture. Nothing should be obstructing it. And the original floor plan, this wall was actually supposed to be sliding glass doors because they wanted to open up that corner, but I'm so glad they didn't, because anyways, even if it was sliding glass doors, it was kind of pointless because it's not leading out to any balcony. And so they were going to put a railing here to protect you from falling under, but that railing would have obstructed the view. This is very tastefully done. I think the location of the TV area is so clever, because by having it tucked away in this little nook, you don't have the TV in the main living spaces, especially covering the beautiful stone of that fireplace. But not only that, but the way they position the TV, it also reduces the glare from the windows and from the natural light pouring in. Something that I thought was genius is integrating this little opaque window right over here. And the fact that it's opaque is perfect because it keeps in the privacy, since your next door neighbor is like right next to you, but also it lets in natural light. And the fact that it's perfectly centered in the kitchen, it allows for that natural light from the northwest to travel as much as possible into the open spaces. A detail I noticed, and I don't know if I'm reading it correctly, but that's how I'm interpreting it, is that this chandelier kind of looks like a cloud in the distance, almost completing this view. Instead of choosing another design for the chandelier that would have competed with the view, they went along with a design that would almost integrate and blend in with the panorama of the sea. Something that I really appreciate about this house is how, despite not being the biggest house, for a luxury house at least, is how they maximize the storage capabilities. This is not a big house, so having all of these built-ins certainly comes very handy. But not only that, places where they really needed the space to breathe, they let it breathe, like in this whole section over here. This very subtly and very cleverly divides the kitchen from the living room, because as soon as the depth and height in the cabinetry changes, you know you're transitioning from one space to another, yet you don't think about it, you just know intuitively. And when architecture speaks like that, you know you did a great job. Again, building up on my comment about this house having very clever storage solutions, this is probably the best example. Having this pull-out closet really maximizes wardrobe space, but not only that, it has probably a bigger closet than rooms that are bigger than this. So it just goes to show like how smart they were about the space planning. Again, here, just like in the kitchen, we have the same idea of bringing this opaque window to bring in that natural light, but yet keeping the privacy. Now, to me, this is a very smart and subtle decision about combining the closet space and the office space together, because again, I'm going to repeat myself, this house is not big. So if you were to cram the closet and the office separately, each space would feel very small. But by having each space borrow from each other's space, it suddenly feels better and it feels larger than what they really are. So initially when I saw this, just for context, this is the fireplace wall just behind it, I thought to myself it was a missed opportunity because they could have done a double-sided fireplace, and that way the patio could benefit from a fire feature. However, they actually thought about it the correct way, because then as I started analyzing this further, I was like, no, this is much better as a solid wall, because it creates this cavity for the sliding pocketing doors to slide right in, opening the living room to the patio seamlessly. And that's far more important, because this is what this whole house is all about. It's all about connecting you to the ocean as much as possible. I think the railing design for the patio was an excellent choice. I like this far better than glass, because glass is going to be dirty all the time, especially being in this location. And you might argue, yes, but the glass would maximize the views, but this is already pretty see-through, and it also maximizes the views. And plus, if you realistically think about it, if you're in this room looking at this view, you're going to be so captivated by the beauty of it that you're not going to be thinking about, oh, a glass railing would have been better, which most likely not, because it would most likely be dirty and take away from the view. So this is an excellent choice. Now, this might be a hot take, but I do prefer when the staircases are kind of hidden or embedded into the architecture like you're seeing right here, with one caveat, all depending on the architecture and the layout of the house. But like when this happens, like I absolutely love this, because to me it really speaks to our natural tendencies of wanting to explore, and this to me creates much more curiosity. It almost feels like it's a maze, if that makes sense. This upstairs landing is more technical than what meets the eye. You have this extra ceiling height allowing for windows on both sides to be placed on motorized systems, allowing them to open and close for natural ventilation. So this whole staircase area becomes pretty much a ventilation chimney, as well as a light shaft, but also a sculptural moment. And this house is also equipped with an HVAC system, so you don't solely rely on natural ventilation. Here we have the entrance of the master bedroom, and I was just talking about the HVAC system. Here you can see we have a recessed AC diffuser. And while we're talking about details, let's zoom out here for a second because it is almost imperceptible. But here you have the window treatment all rolled up and it's almost invisible. And it just goes to show how good the craftsmanship is in this house, because to have a result this minimal and this seamless is very difficult to achieve. Here I want to bring your attention to how good and seamless these track lines are for the sliding glass doors. This is as minimal as it gets. It's completely flat to the ground. It's not sticking out, not bumping out. It really is like the craftsmanship in this house, again, is just really second to none. The only thing that would have maybe been better, but I'm not even mad about it, if the same materials from the outside carried over to the outside. However, I know that this house is right up against the coastline, so they have to be very careful with the material selection because they have to be weather resistant. Now here with the floor plan, you can see you have a carport for maybe up to 3 cars if you squeeze them properly. You can see the layout, it's pretty straightforward. The only thing I will say is that the powder room being underneath the stairs might create a lower ceiling, so you don't have the full ceiling height. It's not the end of the world, but it's something that I would have liked to see different. But considering how it was laid out, I don't think there was another alternative, because I really do believe they made the most out of the space. Overall, I think this Malibu house is an exceptional example of interior design, and I've never been a big fan of houses that sit directly on the sand, but this project embraces the side while addressing the challenges that come with it. I'm curious to know, would you live on a house directly on the sand? Let me know in the comments down below. And until then, I'll see you on the next one.